Welcome to All Creatures Podcast. This is Chris.
And I'm Angie.
Snowy Albatross or Wandering Albatross. We'll get into that because there's so much changing with the albatross around the world. But I had to do this episode, Angie. This is the largest flying bird in the world. It is incredible. I wanted to return to albatross just because one of the main reasons was a few weeks ago, I was on a boat and I got to see a handful of species of albatross, which was incredible.
Well, the photos and the videos you're sending me and the excitement in your text that I was reading just made me super happy for you. You've come a long way, bird nerd. I just love it so much. But your enthusiasm is contagious, showing me these videos and these photos. And then, of course, I started my research last week, and albatrosses are so stunning and they're so long-lived, and they spend so much of their life soaring over the oceans that this is a great pick. The Snowy Albatross, also known as the Wandering Albatross. We are going to bring the facts and really help you fall in love with this bird. It's crazy. It has the longest wingspan of any living bird, so we'll dork out about that. It's far-ranging where it lives and where it travels. It travels tons of miles each year. I was just blown out of the water. I had a lot of fun. You told me you had 60 some slides. I don't have quite that many, but I do have a lot, and it is an excellent pick, and it's a personal one for you. So I can't wait for you to talk all about why I care about this bird, and then just there's some really gnarly, fun physiological facts that they can do what they do. It's incredible. We'll talk too about their population status. I was reading that 15 of the 22 albatross species are now threatened with extinction.
Yes.
So this is an important podcast, and we do need to talk about these birds and get you on board loving them and their huge wingspan and their their courtship. So fun. Wait till you get to those behaviors. It's just incredible. And I was not on that boat with you, but I feel like I was, because the Snowy Albatross has really captured my imagination this week for their epic sea voyages, their endurance, and they're just beautiful big birds.
Yeah, so when Angie and I spot something really cool, we send each other videos or pictures, and I still had
nerd alert.
Yes. And just shout out to Jesse Golden, because he's been trying to get me on a pelagic boat for so long, and we still had connection to the mainland, so I was sending Angie photos, and I'm like, oh my God, I just saw one, and then all these other little different birds. And then once we got out to where we chummed, and I'll talk about, how we brought the birds in, to see them glide and come in and take off again.
The takeoff video. Majestic. Oh my gosh. Incredible.
Yeah.
I made I like John was half asleep, and I made him roll over. I was like, John, you gotta see this. And he put his glasses on. He's like, oh, holy cow.
Yeah. And I was getting baked by the sun, rolled by the waves. But yeah, I mean, the Snowy Albatross are incredible. They do fly all over the ocean. One bird was tracked 6,000 kilometers in 12 days. So there's a lot to cover in this species, particularly in a lot of the challenges that the albatross, like Angie said, 15 or 22, faced with extinction, what they're going through. And sadly, the Antipodean albatross we saw, Jesse said, we'll probably be some of the last people to see that bird on the planet. It's heading towards extinction, and it doesn't look good for that species of albatross. Okay, Snowy Albatross / Wandering Albatross. Angie, I told you, it was like, okay, so we're out there on the boat, and we had a lot of flesh-footed shearwaters, like hundreds all around. And when we started baiting these shearwaters, I'll talk a little bit more about the pelagic trip here in a minute, but I'd watch them swim, and these are big birds. The shearwaters, 4-foot wingspan.
Okay.
They're not small. But then the albatross came. And then we saw snow-capped albatross, black-browed albatross. I've got the list, and they were huge. But then the wandering came in, and this was the jumbo jet. I thought I told you it's like a 747 versus
Yeah.
a 737, and I have photos. It's right here. That's most of my slides are photos of my trip. And when they came in, you saw this albatross, and it was just massive. And so for like our other listeners, it's like the Airbus 380, which is like that double decker. I've flown on it a few times. Beautiful airplane versus the small Airbus 220. Massive, small bird. And I'm
Yeah.
telling you, the shearwater's not small.
No.
The shearwater's the size bigger than a crow or bigger than a raven. And this wandering albatross came in and it's just like, brr, it was like an elephant on the water. So just to start with the size,
Yeah,
and then Angie
definitely.
could do some descriptions. So you're looking at 3 to 3.5 meters wingspan. So that's 10 to 11.5 feet. If you're in a house or somewhere, that's one story. So you can look, wherever you are, if you're sitting and go, okay, one story of a house is about 10 feet. So that's the length of their wingspan.
That's crazy.
Body length is over a meter, like 1.3 meters. That's almost 4.5 feet. So that's a big body, and they weigh
Huge.
anywhere from 13 to 26 pounds. Males are a bit bigger than the females. But when you watch them and they soar, you're just like, whoa, they're just magic. It's something, it's a once in a lifetime experience. Hopefully, I mean, for me, I'll probably do it again. But yeah, they're just massive, massive birds.
Well, and the videos of them taking off it's a massive project to get them from the
Yeah.
ground or the water. The videos you showed me were kind of off the water into the air. It's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I was just
Yeah.
fun to watch, definitely. And so, Chris, did you see any juveniles or were they all pretty much adults?
I think they were all pretty much adults. I mean, I saw the Antipodean albatross,
Hmm.
then the subspecies Gibson's albatross. So those are the big boys. They're like wandering, and I'll talk about. They're teasing out. They might be subspecies. Some people
Yeah.
say they're separate species. Then the white-capped, I saw 5 of those. 2 of the salvins, which are just gorgeous, and then the black-browed albatross. All seemed adultish, but the Antipodean might have been a little bit younger because it had a little bit more gray feathering in the neck. I mean,
Sure. Well, and that's
Jesse
why I
got
was.
some incredible photos. So yeah, I
Oh, we
just
got
like,
it. Hopefully,
yeah,
he'll share them with the podcast, Jesse, if you're
yes.
listening.
I asked him. I said yes.
All rights reserved.
Yes.
Cool. Well, I asked because their plumage does vary with age, right? So the juveniles are going to start out chocolate brown. And as the snowy or wandering albatross ages, it becomes more white. And so the adult that Chris saw is going to have a white body with black and whitish wings. So males will have whiter wings than females, with just usually the tips trailing and the edges of the wing black. Where with the females, they will have more black running towards their body. All the species have a white underwing covert. I did not know what a covert was. I'm proud to say that I have 2 slides on different anatomical parts of the wing of the feathers. There's primary feathers, secondary feathers, and coverts. And so you'll just have to trust me. Feather anatomy is pretty cool. But the coverts are like the smaller underneath feather that run basically between the bottom half of the wing and then the upper half of the wing. So that's fun. I love that I learning every day is a school day,
Yeah.
right? And as far as their facial features, the snowy albatross has a large bill that's pink in color, and their feet are pink as well. So just a good looking bird overall, big bird. A lot of them have like a little bit of black too on their tail feathers just to make them round them out, make them look really nice. But yeah, big, beautiful bird, and you can't miss them, right?
Oh, no, you can't. And I mean, that face, when you look at that face, it almost looks like a dodo bird, the beak.
It does. It has a very
Yeah,
big, good
it's
sized
distinct.
bill, and it's pink, and it is very distinct. Definitely, I am not as good with my seabirds as you or Jesse at
Jesse.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I would definitely they definitely have a different face. I would think than besides their size, that bill is much more distinct than some of the other seabirds, I think.
Yeah, yeah. The black-browed albatross is just gorgeous.
Oh, I
So
bet.
that's a mid-size wingspan up to 8 feet or 2.5 meters. The smallest albatross species is the yellow-nosed albatross, but that wingspan's still 7 feet, just over 7 feet or over 2 meters. They're not small. They're
That's
not small birds.
big. That is so big. Yeah,
And
I
I thought
love it.
and I thought the salvins and the white-capped, I thought, wow, that's a big bird. But like I said, when that wandering came in, or the Gibsons, or the Antipodean, I was like, oh baby, that's a big bird.
That's
That's
so
a
cool.
big bird. And I've seen bald eagles flying.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, I've seen all sorts of birds. Obviously traveling the world. Nothing compared to this. Nothing. It was astonishing. Okay, so Snowy Albatross Range is the entire southern Pacific Ocean, southern Atlantic, southern Indian, year round. They only breed in certain island chains.
Yes,
So
we'll talk about that.
South Georgia, Crozet, Kerguelen, Prince Edward and Marion Islands, and then Macquarie Island, which is south of me, south of New Zealand. And when I looked at eBird to see where these have been spotted, quite a bit between Argentina and Antarctica. So I think that's a pretty popular tourist cruise area where lots of boats go out. So they're probably doing some ecotourism around there.
Well, in the South
Uh,
Georgia Islands too.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tons there. And then South Africa, south of that. And then South Australia, they're spotted off the coast, and then also New Zealand. Now, why care, Angie? So let me let you go first before I go on my dorky pelagic tour, and then a little bit on some of the pressures that albatross are facing. Yeah.
None of it is dorky. It all comes from the heart, and that is,
Yes.
the most
Yeah.
important, right? That's why we're here doing this podcast week in and week out, late at night, early in the morning. But from a more of a scientific kind of ecological point of view, albatrosses are awesome, right? So they are ocean top predators and scavengers. So we'll talk about their nutrition, but they hunt fish and squid and other marine animals, and they'll also scavenge carcasses. So they basically help keep the mid-level prey populations in check. And they also will recycle dead material back into the food webs. And with that being said, they're also really important nutrient movers. So where the snowy albatross feeds is far out at seas, and then it returns to colonies on the mainland, and well, it poops, it excretes, and it regurgitates food to their chick. And so therefore they're transferring a lot of marine nutrients onto these isolated islands. They're enriching the soils and supporting the other plants and invertebrates that live in these isolated areas. So they're really just like living samplers of the ocean life. And so they can basically tell us a lot of what's happening out there, which gives the scientists an ability to understand, well, are the albatross populations healthy? Are they doing well? How are our oceans doing, right? So they kind of act as an indicator species. And of course, when we highlight the species and talk about their conservation, and make people fall in love with them, that'll be Chris's job. Uh, Saving the snowy albatross actually acts as an umbrella species that will help save lots of ocean creatures, and then, of course, plants and invertebrates and other creatures that live on these remote islands. So they're really important.
Yeah. And I released earlier in the week Theo Van Noort's interview, which was one of the first we did, the first year
Love that
of
one.
the
Yeah.
podcast. Yeah, and he talks about the Antipodes, how the $1 million mouse removal program, where they went and all the rodents that had been dropped there by ships and stuff in the 1800s had devastated the birds, devastated native wildlife. And New Zealand and our Department of Conservation, who we call DOC, and we had some private donors go down there and eradicate all the mice, and the birds are back, the insects are back. So beautiful story. Listen to that. This pelagic trip was very special. Jesse was begging me for many years. And what that means is we went out on the water. We went probably 30 miles off the coast, past a couple of the outer islands. And We chummed to call in the birds, and we did our bird counts, and then we puttered back. I will tell you, it was a long day. And if you saw on YouTube a couple weeks ago, my face was beat red like Santa Claus because the sun and the water was very choppy. I helped chum the water a little bit. It was it was exhilarating, but it was tough. It was tough to get out there. This wasn't like, a boat. I was thinking like boats we go to go dive, or even like say snorkeling where you get out there quick. This was a going 5 knots and pretty moderate surf, up and down, to get out there. It was incredible. Just to update everybody on my eBird count, I'm at 535 species observed around the world. So
Great.
when Jesse bird shamed me a couple years ago and said I was like under 250, he's like, Chris, that's it? I said, okay, fine. So I've doubled that with sub. But what I saw out there was the northern giant petrel, flesh-wooded shearwaters, fluttering shearwaters, diving petrels. Then I
Cool.
saw one Antipodean albatross, 2 Gibson's albatross. So those are wandering / snowy / a different species. So they were the big ones, very, very big. And genetics is starting to show that they may be separate species, but they're very, very closely related. So they're very big. These are the big ones. I saw 5 white-capped albatross, 2 Salvin's albatross, and 1 black-browed albatross. So in total, that was 11 out on the water. And we saw a couple white-caps on the way out there. And then what we did is the captain of the boat, he did an incredible job and kind of kept the boats somewhat steady. We would go and we had some frozen bait balls or bait that we put in kind of like a crab pot and threw it overboard. And then as chunks of fish came out, we were creating a slick. Shearwaters were incredible. Like I interviewed Bertie Gregory a few weeks ago, posted that in his Dolphins Up Close. He's looking for those bait balls. We saw a bait ball on the way out, and all the shearwaters diving and swimming. I was watching these shearwaters swim. It was incredible. And then pop up, all the water just didn't even, bother their feathers, and they took off. It was incredible. And so you had all these shearwaters start approaching the boat, and then the albatross came. And I'm going to talk to you when we talk about hunting and stuff, how the albatross keyed in on us, because they were way out there. Like you couldn't even see them. Then all of a sudden, here they come. And then next thing you know, you have 5 or 6 albatross with like 20, 30 shearwaters, some of the other smaller birds in there. And it was just like, wow, it was this bird nerd, me, dream to see all of these pelagic birds. And
Definitely.
yeah, so it was really great. The Antipodean albatross is sometimes called Gibson's or the wandering type, New Zealand. They are endangered. They I have a picture I'll put on social media and show you. They had a black cap. I remember seeing it specifically. And I remember Jesse telling me, his friend who works in conservation for some of these pelagic birds, said they're most likely going to go extinct because they only breed on a couple islands, and they're noticing they haven't bred in a few years. So there are
and
no
even when they
young ones.
do, we'll talk about it, but they
Yeah.
have it's like one, at least with the snowy, it's like one chick every other year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I
Yeah.
could see that being a problem. And that's another reason why I care to pull up everybody's heartstrings. When we look at the snowy albatross, their populations are most likely declining. They're listed as vulnerable due to their slow breeding and high adult mortality. And so populations at key sites like in South Georgia, they've dropped steeply in recent decades, some by over 30% in 20
Yeah.
years. So,
Yeah, there's roughly 7,000 breeding pairs of Antipodean, but they're not breeding.
right.
New Zealand says they're now nationally critical, historically large losses in their population, and they're not replacing themselves. So Jesse said, we're probably some of the last people that are going to see that bird alive. because
Crazy.
they're going to become so rare and then go extinct, which was very, very sad. He said there isn't the will or the money behind it to save them. So I'm thinking behind the scenes and of ways I might be able to start a movement. So I need to really talk to Jesse and see if some of our contacts that we met through the podcast, if we can shed a light on this albatross and we can maybe see it save the species. So going to make some movements here very soon on that.
Yeah.
The white-capped I saw 5 of those. They're near threatened. Salvin's vulnerable. The black-browed, I only saw 1 of those. They are endangered. 67% decline over 60 years. Yeah. Okay, so some of the other cool birds. White-faced storm petrel, gray-faced petrels, fairy prions, Cook's petrel, which people come here to see. The flesh-footed shearwaters were everywhere. They were incredible. And then Jesse's like, look at this bird. The New Zealand storm petrel, critically endangered. They thought it was
Wow.
extinct.
What?
But 20 years ago, they found them breeding on one of our islands. And so they're starting to come back.
Nice.
So that
Good.
was like, wow. So very, very rare bird.
Very hopeful story, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, like Angie said, around the world, we are seeing a decline. And to bring this back to the Snowy Albatross, around 20,000 mature individuals worldwide, but huge decline. I mean, huge
And that's
decline.
worldwide.
Yes.
And they have a crazy big range, which we'll talk about. So, yeah.
Yeah, the entire Southern Ocean. All right, so really quickly, what are some of the pressures and what's being done? I look specifically at New Zealand because I know this is in our news and this is going on around the world, but long line fishing is the biggest threat. So baited hooks thrown off these like lines that can go for, I don't know, 10 to 50 miles or more of a long line. So the fishing boat goes out, baits all these hooks, throws them out as they go, and then they turn around and go to the beginning and start pulling it in and hopefully pull in the fish. Well, the problem is the albatross sees those baited hooks, an easy meal, they go and they get hooked and they drown. And it is being reported. It does come in our news around here in New Zealand. And this year to date, 57 albatross have been reported captured or died by surface longline vessels. Now, that's them reporting it, the fisheries. It is believed the older estimates, up to 3,000 albatross a year are killed by this longline fishing by New Zealand fisheries alone. I'm not talking South America and Africa or other parts of the world. I'm talking New Zealand, known to be green, known to care about our animals. Yeah. And so it really angers the public. That really angers the public when this is reported. So, yeah, the Antipodean albatross, 63 birds per year, that's a very low estimate, are killed by longline fishery. So when there's only 7,000 of them left, that's not sustainable. And now they're not breeding. So that's a huge, huge problem. Plastic pollution, we've talked quite a bit. Plastic-free July, when we talk about that, that is a big thing because albatross sees that as food. They eat the plastic, gets in their stomach, it will kill them. Especially young birds. Young birds aren't as discerning as older birds. So the young birds, like a lot of chicks and stuff, they find the ones that die, and you can find those on social media or online, and they open up the stomachs and it's full of plastic.
Yeah, it's so sad.
Because they don't know, yeah. Climate change, definitely changing the abundance of squid and other marine animals that they eat. Invasive species on nesting islands. So that's why I released that interview again the other day, just to remind people of what is being done. And one thing I'm proud of living here in New Zealand is we are a global leader in eradicating invasive pests from our outer islands as we combat them on our 2 main islands. Remember, New Zealand, North Island, where I live, and that's where like 70% of us live. South Island, Andor, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan or whatever, there's about 30% of the population live there. But we have stoats, weasels, rats, everything that are killing the kiwi, young chicks, all of that. We are trying to eradicate those from the main islands. Meanwhile, we have gone to these outer islands and eradicated them and put emergency populations to Atara, our unique reptile, our kiwi, our saddleback bird, some of our most endangered kakapo. There you go. Codfish Island. That's where they're at. They're safe. There's no stoats, weasels, feral cats, any of that there. So
Yeah,
we're working very hard. Yeah.
Oh, no, I was just going to say it was really cute. Just for some reason, I heard listening to something about traveling, and I asked Sander, I'm like, oh, if you could go anywhere, any country, like, where would you want us to take you? And he's like, New Zealand. I want to see a
Yeah.
tuatara. I was like, oh, Chris has you trained
I
well.
will take him to. I will show him plenty of tuatara. We will go,
So
and I'll put
cute.
you all on a bird boat. And we'll go see albatross.
Ah, yeah. Now you're talking. I love it. I love it.
But yeah, Campbell Islands, we've done it. Rats were eradicated. The Antipodes, the Auckland Island, and let me see. Right now, Auckland Island is a big one because a lot of albatross nest there.
Yeah.
So feral cats, pigs, and mice are the big problem. So right now, New Zealand, because it's such a mountainous, treacherous island, New Zealand's preparing to go down there and do what we've done to these smaller islands around us and eradicate all of these animals.
Yeah.
So the birds are safe, the insects are safe, and all of that, because thousands of albatross nest there.
Yeah.
And they're getting picked off. Okay. And then other things, overfishing, other toxins. The most critical, we talked about Antipodeans endangered. The Amsterdam albatross is critically endangered. Amsterdam Island is in the South Indian Ocean, not there in Europe, you would think, but it's not. It's out there in the middle of nowhere in the Indian Ocean, where that's the only place these birds nest. So we don't even have a number count on them, but they're critically endangered. The waved albatross, that one's in the Galapagos Islands. They're critically endangered. The Atlantic yellow-nosed albatross endangered, gray-headed albatross, sooty albatross, all endangered. Salvins, which I've seen, vulnerable. Black-footed, endangered. Short-tailed, vulnerable. Near-threatened, shy albatross, and then so on and so forth. But those are the top ones that are in trouble. So we will cover a couple organizations at the end of this podcast. There are so many people out there fighting for them, and and I guess my final message is, or my tip of the day for you is, get involved in bird counts, because these pelagic boats that we go on, even though how exciting it is for me and to see these birds, the information we collected, and we shared all of our bird lists together on the 12 of us that were on the boat. Scientists look at that data and they get an idea of population. So we saw one Antipodean where maybe last year we would have seen 3. We saw 5 snow-capped or white-capped where maybe last year we only saw 2. So that means their population's doing a little bit better. And there's not many pelagic boats going off the coast of New Zealand, because ours was canceled twice before we finally got to go because the weather was fine. But yeah, get involved in bird watching, port them on eBird.
Yeah,
You're going to have fun. Your kids are going to have fun. And scientists will thank you.
Well, exactly. Yeah, birds across the world are in trouble. So I'm sure wherever you live, there are birds that need your help, scientists that need the data. And as Chris mentioned, it's just fun. It's fun to get involved and look for different birds. I'm addicted to my Merlin ID app and trying to learn all the different calls and using my ear to say, like, that's a blue jay. That's a Carolina wren that wakes me up every morning. She's very talkative. So, and now it's my ear is so trained where it's if I can't figure out which one it is, I'm always on the app trying. And now it's this one. And of course, living in Florida, we have a lot of migrating species right now coming from up north where it's getting cold, and so the sandhill cranes are coming in, and it's super fun.
Yeah, no, it makes you appreciate wildlife more, because I just my whole life I just took birds for granted. They were there, just didn't want to get pooped on, and sure, they made some cool noises, but now I'm like, they're beautiful. They're
so great.
busy. They're out there working. They're
Well, and
singing.
yeah, and
Yeah,
and to like take it back to like the albatross and all these species. It's so fascinating to me that they have these nesting grounds that are ancient. I mean, they have been
yeah,
doing
yeah.
this for forever and
Hmm.
they've been great at it. They've carved out different niches like, hey, you guys go to this island, we'll take this island, we'll take this area. And I mean, for that to all stop in our lifetime is just
Yeah,
it's insane.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We got to keep fighting for them. So, yep. All right, jumping into evolution. Birds over 10,000 species, I think 12,000 species and growing. And I will hopefully see 20% of that before I die. So that's 2,000 birds. It's my goal. All right. The order, Celeriforms. So the 4 families, the albatross, the petrels and shearwaters, and storm petrels. Everything I saw in the ocean. I got all across all 4 of them.
That's great.
Yeah, pelagic birds. So the albatrosses, around 22 species. The storm petrels, 10 species, northern storm petrels, 18 species, and then petrels and shearwaters, about 100 species. They're just a fun group of birds. The family Diomedidae albatross, 22. Break it out into the great albatross, North Pacific albatross, sooty albatross, and
Hmm.
mollymox.
Hmm.
So the great albatross, so that's the snowy wandering. And this is again where genetics are like, ooh, do we have subspecies or species? But generally, I think it's recognized now that the snowy or wandering albatross is a separate species. The Antipodean, Gibsons, Southern Royals. I've seen the Royal Albatross down in Dunedin, the south part of New Zealand. Amsterdam, those ones I talked about, North Royal and Tristan. Now, question of the day. How many albatross for you, Angie,
Mm.
are above the equator?
Ooh. Well, you mentioned the one in near the Galapagos. So that's my answer. One.
One. And that's not even the one.
Oh,
That's south of the equator. It's okay.
uh, hold on. Let me
So,
try that again.
where's one of
Did
your favorite
did
places
you
on
say you
Earth?
said north of the equator? Oh, I
North of the
guess
equator. How many species
Galapagos
north?
is. I mean, it's right next to Ecuador. I guess it is
Eh,
south. It's
it's south, but okay.
Ecuador's on the equator, and
It's
you
close.
take the
Okay,
boat
so,
from
all
Ecuador to
right.
get to
Okay.
Galapagos.
I know you know South America way better than me. You've been there. All right.
I forgot the
Favorite
question.
place on Earth that
Costa
you want to go
Rica,
back.
Africa.
No, you want to go back and swim and go see your manta rays again. And
Hawaii.
yeah,
Yes.
okay.
Hmm.
I know you love
I
Hawaii.
have a lot of favorite places.
Yeah, I know. Soon to be New Zealand.
Hmm.
The Laysan albatross. That's the one that you see on the Hawaiian island chain. We did the Hawaiian monk seal years
Oh,
ago.
yeah. That was fun.
Yeah, and so that island chain up there in the Hawaiian Islands, that's where the Laysons are, and that's where you see like some of, I think it was a Planet Earth episode where they showed the albatross and all the plastic on the shores, and that was just oh. So you have them there in the North Pacific, then the black-footed albatross, the entire North Pacific, then the short-tailed albatross, which is the North Pacific and Bering Sea. So
Okay.
those are the 3. Yeah. So none in the Atlantic,
Okay.
but
So
all in the
they're
Pacific.
not all Southern Ocean then.
No, there's 3. There's 3
The
that are
three.
north of the
Okay.
equator. Yep, yep, yep. I don't know. I'm sure we covered it in the first episode we did, but couldn't remember it. Sooty albatross. So you have the sooty albatross, or should say sooty albatrosses. You have the sooty albatross and the light mantled albatross, and then the mollywocks. These ones are fun. These ones are gorgeous too. So the white capped, the salvins, the bullers, and the black browed albatross. Shy, Indian, there's a whole bunch of them. Gray-headed, Chatham Island, Campbell Island, albatross. Those ones have like I guess they have like it looks like the brows and they look like they're really angry. The angry bird. Oh, they're gorgeous. They're beautiful. So yeah, the genus is Diomedea, and then the
Ooh,
species name.
I've got a quiz for you.
Oh no, Diomedea excellens. Okay, yeah.
Do you
Species name.
know where the Diomedia comes from? What Greek mythology is it named after?
Well, how about the is it Icarus who flew too close to the sun and burnt his
No,
wings?
Diomedes.
Diomedes.
Diomedes, whose companion turned to birds. So
Okay.
yes, and I'm in love with this podcast called Greeking Out. I listened to it with the boys on the way to school and back. It's amazing because I wasn't very good with my Greek mythology. I didn't really know a lot about it. So
I should
yeah,
have said Diomedes. I've heard of Diomedes. I just thought maybe Icarus because of the wings. That's all I remember
yeah,
of my Greek. Yeah.
yeah, and the exons comes
Yeah.
from exile or wander.
Yeah.
So there you
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. And so in this species classification, again, some experts do consider there to be 4 subspecies of the wandering albatross. So the snowy would be separate, the Antipodean. But others say no, they're all different, or they're
Okay.
still, scientists. We love to argue and be right, right?
Well, as we get more
Yeah, more
data,
info. Yeah,
we may change
yeah,
things up, but that's the power of more data, right?
yeah. That's what, and we do. We love to argue as scientists. We just do. Okay, so present day dates back 30, 35 million years. I mean, albatross after the 5th mass extinction, there was like early seabirds that did survive that, and eventually the first proto albatrosses came. But around 30 million years ago is where we start to see albatross start to change and be forced to change because the Earth was changing. Antarctica and sort of drift south. As we used to talk about, Antarctica was a highway for
Yeah.
a lot of species to go back and forth from South America to Australia.
Mhm.
A lot of our marsupials. That's how we have opossums in North America because, they were going back and forth around there. Uh, But once Antarctica started to go south and more colder and shifting those currents, so the birds had to evolve. So you start to see longer wingspans, lighter bones. They can start to soar longer, salt glands to drink salt water. All
Oh,
of
we'll
these
talk about
things
that.
that,
Yeah.
yeah. So about 25 million years ago is when the first albatross appear, and it was called the Great Albatross, which just Mike Gunton, Prehistoric Planet Ice Age. I want to see this bird if you're listening, because most of the animals we said we want to see on the screen, they've put it in Prehistoric Planet Ice
I
Age.
know. It's awesome.
So I think the researchers listen to us. But yeah, the giant albatross, 17 and a half feet wingspan.
Crazy.
That's huge. It's
Yeah.
not the biggest bird ever or biggest flying animal ever, but that's still massive. Largest albatross ever. So 17 and a half feet, so almost double of the wandering. Then 5 to 10 million years ago is where you start to see the great albatrosses, the sooties, the mollymawks, and the North Pacific albatross. So that's where they do. And then 2.5 million years is kind of where these birds have been.
Been doing their
They
thing
haven't
on their
changed.
islands. Hmm.
Couple million years. Like, that's insane. And here we are in the last couple hundred, all of a sudden we're going to drive them into extinction.
Yeah, it's
Like,
crazy.
just boom. Like, millions of years, these birds have been flying around our oceans, doing their thing. Hundreds of thousands of them, most likely. And now they're down to, a few hundred for some of these species. Incredible bird that lives long. You said this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I think the maximum is wisdom. A Laysan albatross. She's 73 years old. I saw a story on her pop up today on my news feed. She's getting ready to nest again, and she's still raising chicks. So that's up near you, in your part of the world, up there in Hawaii. But most live 40, 50 years.
Yeah, 50 on
Yeah.
average. But
Yeah,
still, it's
still.
a very long life, and
Yes.
they don't reproduce right away. So we'll talk about that as well. Like if you think about a 2 or 3 year old getting caught on a long line, like they didn't even get to replace themselves, So
Oh, it's just
yeah.
it's terrible. It's terrible. It's terrible. We've got to stop fishing that way. We have to. We have to change. Humanity has to change. We have to change for these birds and all the other animals. We have to stop fishing krill. I mean, all of that. Ugh. All right. Anyways. Okay. So long life. How fast are they? So this is, it's so hard to explain unless you've seen them on the ocean. It's so awesome. I'm going to talk about how they fly and soar. But one of the things I used to think is like, oh, I'd see them soaring up high. No, no, they're right on the waves. Like they are gliding right on the waves. As the waves go up, the bird goes up. Wave goes down, the bird goes down. And they're just soaring off these waves up to 45 miles an hour, 70 kilometers an hour. Top speeds for like in the wind, like windy days. That day it wasn't quite windy, but say like today we have a storm off the coast and it's really windy. They can go 60, 70 miles per hour up to 110 kilometers per hour.
Hmm.
So because they're GPS tracking these birds, one
Yeah.
got with a tailwind close to 80 miles per hour.
Yeah.
That's
I read about
insane.
that. That's
Yeah,
especially for that big a bird. Seems dangerous.
yeah, I know, but they're and you just watch them because I mean, I had nothing else to do on this little putt-putt boat, but even just the shearwaters I would watch, and their heads are constantly scanning, and then those tail feathers are constantly adjusting, and they're experts. They're just
Well,
absolute
yeah.
experts.
Well, the snowy albatross can stay in the air without flapping its wings for several hours at a time.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
just gliding and soaring. So I mean, it's just the flying facts to me were just incredible. There was one that they GPS tracked that went 900 kilometers per day on average, traveling like 40 kilometers per hour. And I mean, they do this for days, weeks at a time. I I mean, it's just crazy. I think you opened with one of the fun facts that one bird traveled 6,000 kilometers in 12 days.
Yeah, yeah, in 12 days. Like that's insane.
What?
Yeah, that's
What?
insane.
And
It's
then,
just
of course, there's some individual snowy albatrosses that have been reported circumnavigating the Southern Ocean 3 times in a year, flying more than 75,000 miles.
insane. It's
It's
insane.
insane.
It's such
It's
a
insane.
it's such a it's their superpower. It's soaring is their
Yes.
superpower. I
Yes.
mean,
Yes.
when the
Well,
wings, yeah.
oh, go ahead.
So as I say, as the winds are stronger, they go up, then they dive to gain speed. Over that surface, this looping pattern. So as the wave comes up and it's producing a vertical wind gradient that they pick up. So that is why they're able to stay lower and just glide, and they're using the energy of the ocean. Like it's green energy that they're using with their wings that are just locked in place. Now, I saw them flap their wings because they were coming in to feed
To get the
and
food,
take
yeah.
off again. And so that was big. Woo, 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 woo. And I'll put the video on socials and YouTube, but
Yeah, it's so fun.
you see them, paddle, 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 and then they get airborne again, but then they just soar and they're just soaring. Yeah, it's just,
Well, and that's what
yeah.
I was like, how do they do this, right? And so besides this like dynamic soaring pattern and getting this energy from the waves, basically, they also have a mechanism where their shoulder and elbow like lock the wings. So the snowy albatross has special joints and tendons that lock and hold the wings outstretched, so the muscles don't have to work hard and keep firing to keep the wings open during these long glides. So that's a really cool biohack that they do, which I was really fascinated by. So yeah.
Well, one of the things, okay, you're talking about, and I think we briefly mentioned this before we start recording. You were talking about navigation because I remember one of the things with sea turtles, it just blew me away. These ocean-going creatures, Arctic Tern that we did last year, I think it was, how they circumnavigate from North Pole to South Pole and back. So albatross, how do they? Let me
Yeah.
ask you this: like, how do they know the one that circles here 3 times? How does it know to get back to its nesting island?
Right, right. And
Yeah,
so yeah, there's the one that circles the earth basically 3 times. And then younger birds will basically go out to the water and just stay out there for a while. I mean, several years before they go back to their like brooding colonies. So yeah, that was my question. Like, how do they do this? And what the research is suggesting at this point with the snowy albatross is that they appear to navigate and return to their breeding colonies using many cues. Uh, and it's dominated by a super sense. What do you think that is?
smell.
Yes, their
Yeah.
smell. So we're
Yep.
going to talk a
Yeah.
lot
Yep.
about
Yep.
hold on to that. So it's dominated by the olfaction, supported by vision, wind cues, and a large scale spatial memory. So it's not technically like this GPS like sense or magnetic that we see in turtles and other creatures at this point. Now, once again, that's why I love science. We could be covering another albatross. Let's hope we do it in 5 years, and the data may suggest something else. But at this point, they think that it's basically olfaction, vision, and then a good memory, and then other cues. So studies on wandering albatross and other similar seabirds show that they have unusually large olfactory bulbs in their brain. And they also have expanded olfactory receptor gene families, so much larger than other bird species. And the behavior that they do, which Chris like discussed to a T, they bait the water, the other birds come in, and then lo and behold, out of nowhere. So not within visual range. It's not like they saw the bait ball or they saw the boat. They smelled it, most
Yeah.
likely.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this matches other animals that use airborne odors to basically navigate and find food and resources in these huge ocean distances. So, yeah, pretty cool stuff. I think I did a lot of research there, and today, hands down, I
Yeah.
think their olfactory cues, or olfactory sense is definitely one of the snowy albatross's superpower because
Absolutely.
that's how they find food and how they find home in a gigantic ocean. Like, what?
Yes. It's huge. The ocean is huge. And I've spent a lot of time in the water the last few years. I That was my big question because when we did put out the bait, the floating bait to create this slick of fish oils and fish bits, and then we were cutting up fish and throwing it over the boat for the birds. And I have pictures of two albatross, both have fish in their beaks. I was like, how did they find us? Because when we stopped, there was a shearwater or two around. That was about it. Then we threw the bait out, and then we had like 3 shearwaters, and then 4 shearwaters, and then 10, and then 15, and then here comes the albatross. I mean, 11 albatross, and they're not within a kilometer of each other easily, right? So
Yeah.
that smell, they said they follow the scent clouds on the wind like sharks follow blood in the water. Like, that's
I mean, I'm just trying
incredible.
to picture myself, sitting in my studio, which, spoiler alert, it's actually my bedroom.
It's, yeah.
But sitting here and being like, lifting my nose to the air and being like, I I think I smell pizza on the campus at the University of Florida, 8 miles away.
Yeah, I know.
And let me just use my nose to like turn this way, turn that way. I mean, what? It's
Honed in, yeah.
crazy. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. So they do, and they do have really good long distance vision. So they can
Yes.
spot squid near the surface or fish and shadows under the water and stuff like that. They can spot fishing vessels, so they have learned to associate food with fishing vessels. Again, that's what's wrong with that is a problem with the long line fishing. Uh, they do read the ocean very well, so they know the eddies and things where fish will
Yeah.
be. They do follow other predators, so they will follow
Okay.
whales, dolphins,
Sure.
tuna,
Smart.
and then other diving birds. Um, they again they go and they surface snatch, so that's their main way of collecting food. They've got those really long beaks. They can go and just boom and grab squid, or they do shallow dipping while they're gliding. I've seen
Okay.
this with shearwaters where they'll go and they'll dip real quick and then come up. Shearwaters will actually dive deep and come back up with fish, or coming over swells. I think that's why they're always looking. Those heads are
Oh,
always swiveling.
scanning.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They will scavenge. So, like what we were throwing out was dead. They will go scavenge that. They even whale byproducts or dead
Mm-hmm.
whales. They will do that, and then these bait balls and things that form, they'll go in there. And then at night, it's really smell. ripples on the surface, or bioluminescence they can recognize. So with some things. So yeah, just incredible. Now, one thing, Angie, how do they stay out there, and do they land and sleep in the water? What do they do? How do they do it?
I don't know. I mean,
Could you?
they have to rest. They probably have very short intermittent bursts of sleep. Where
They
it's
do
not
take micro naps on the water. I'll tell you that. They will land for a few minutes, take a micro nap, and take off.
okay.
But again, they're vulnerable there. They can get
Sure.
snatched.
Yeah.
So think about it. You've talked about this in other species that do this,
Mm-hmm.
like how do whales sleep or other animals.
You do too.
You do too. What do
How
they
do
do in the brain?
Oh, with one eye open. One eye open.
Meaning
No, like
two
this.
hemispheres in the brain,
Yeah.
right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
So that means one hemisphere's asleep while the
And then,
other's operating,
oh,
and then
that's
the
right.
other
Yeah.
one.
See, I got it.
So that's
Thank
how
you.
they sleep
Your
while they're
charades were
gliding.
very helpful.
Yeah, but you've said this before in many
Oh, of
podcasts. There was a
course, of
whale or
course.
something. I remember you
I think
talking about
dolphins.
whales.
I don't know about
Like, yeah,
whales, but definitely dolphins do that for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. Whales stop, right? Don't they stop sometimes in sleep? But
We gotta put a whale on the podcast. There's
no, I saw the picture of the sperm whales. It went
they
viral
like
this year.
float. Yeah, it's
Yeah, and there was like 9 of them, and they were just
yeah.
all upside down sleeping. But I know, yeah, maybe it was dolphins you were talking about that they do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sleeping. Okay. Ooh, what else, Angie? I mean, they sleep,
Well,
their
they have those really cool
nutrition.
salt glands, right? So
Yes.
the snowy albatross has a salt gland that's situated above their nasal passage, and this helps basically desalinate their bodies since they're always out on the ocean water. They're taking a lot of it in when they're catching the squids or the carcasses or whatever they're doing. So in order not to over salinate, if that's a word, have too much salt in their bodies, the snowy albatross will excrete a high saline solution from their nose, from this like nasal passage. And researchers think that that's why you sometimes see a pink yellow stain on some of the animals' necks from it dripping. I don't
Okay.
know. We'll have to look at Jesse's photos to see,
Yeah,
zoom
yeah,
in
yeah.
and see if we
I'll
can
look
see
for that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If I do, I'll post on social media and I'll
Yeah.
circle it and say,
Yeah.
here we go, the salt glands. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of salt out there. But I mean, and their food, so mainly squid, fish. I mean, they do flying fish. We saw some flying fish, lanternfish, small pelagic fish, near up at the top or get pushed, or those bait balls.
Mm-hmm.
But squids mainly for the snowy albatross, up to 80% of their diet. They will eat some crustaceans if they can, or jellyfish, and then carrion. So, whales that are floating, they'll eat dead squid, fish scraps. Again, the discards from fishing boats, like us, we're a pelagic boat. We weren't fishing. We were just looking for birds. But these long line fishing, they throw stuff overboard. So the birds associate that with food, which is leading to problems.
Yeah. Well, and I was reading that they can, if it's readily available, they can eat big meals and they might gulp down about uh, up to a quarter of their body mass in one sitting. And then they'll sit on the water and kind of digest before taking off again. So
Yeah, that's the goony like bird. That's like
that's like me on Thanksgiving. Like I could barely, they had to like wheel me out of there. I could, can't imagine.
I mean, they're
flying
huge.
after eating
They're
that much
huge.
food. But yeah, they're huge. They're so fun.
Yeah, they are fun. They are fun. So, what other behaviors we haven't covered yet?
Well, we've talked about it, but you and I are numbers people, especially when it comes to behavior. And so the snowy, and so one research article I read said that the snowy/wandering albatross spends most of their life out at sea, well over 90%. And they will go to land, only to breed and rear chicks in these remote sub-Antarctic islands. So, yeah, I mean, they may spend 5 to 10 years at sea continuously after fledging, before returning to their natal colony. So I said a couple of years, but it can be even longer than that, where they're just out there. And yes, they may rest on the water, like Chris mentioned, just to maybe take a quick little micro nap. That's my new favorite word, micro nap. I need to incorporate that into my life.
Yeah.
But but then they're also like just in the air, and they might
Hmm.
be there. So yeah, it's crazy. That's just a lot to be out at sea. I mean, Chris was out there for
Yes.
10 hours, and you would have
It's
thought it was like 10 days. I'm just kidding.
yeah. No, it did. It did feel that way
Yeah.
coming home. It was
Yeah,
brutal. It was
right?
brutal.
Yeah.
I was
So,
miserable. Jesse was miserable too. So he told me, he was like, Chris, I want to be here and I love it, but I am so miserable right now. It
it's
was
funny. Yeah.
and so if you would
Yeah.
have
You
asked
guys are
me that
troopers.
day if I was gonna if I wanted to do another one, I'd say, oh heck no. But now here I am a few weeks later, and I'm like, I can go again next year
Like
at
give
some point.
like giving birth, or
I don't
or
think it was
oh my
that
god.
bad.
No, no. I'll never forget when you I was finishing up my master's, and you're like, oh my gosh, a spot opened up. You have to stay for your PhD, and I'm like, this is the wrong time to ask me that, Chris. Not this week. Maybe next week, but yeah. Otherwise, I found some interesting articles from one of our favorites, the Journal of Nature, which is just very high end and very good science, and then also Ecology and Evolution journals, which was looking at the kind of the movements and the interactions of the wind, the climate, and how the birds have evolved over time to be at sea 95% of the time. And so some of the facts are that the snowy albatross movement patterns are strongly shaped by prevailing westerly winds. So all the fishermen and women out there, and boaters know this, the difference between westerly and northern winds and stuff like that. But our snowy albatross often take long detours up to 10,000 kilometers or more to keep flying with the tailwinds rather than battling the headwinds. So they're
Mm,
smart, right?
yeah.
And then they've, once again, as Chris mentioned, they've tracked some of these birds. And from tracking over more than a decade, it shows that males and females will adjust their foraging ranges and activity patterns with climate anomalies such as the southern annular mode, and of course El Nino, which is these are the southern oscillations and how those change. So they can kind of flex their feeding patterns and their hunting patterns with those different climate patterns.
Mhm.
And lastly, the research suggests that female snowy albatrosses tend to use slightly warmer and more northerly waters than males. So they are somewhat sex segregated at sea. So, yeah, I'd be curious to know if you saw a male or a female, but I don't know how you would be able to tell that apart. So,
Yeah, I wouldn't.
without
I
like,
wouldn't. I would.
without, yeah,
But
without a tag or something. Yeah.
Angie, I was like, okay, Jesse, what bird is that? Okay, which one is that? Which one is
Yeah.
that? 'Cause
I love it. I love that you like was so helpful and good. Yeah, that's great.
well, we had like a young man who's 13, and his dad was hilarious. He's like, I'm only here because of him. He's got me into birding. And his
Cute.
son had the long lens camera, took some incredible
Oh, love
photos.
it.
So shout out to Caden, who inspired me out on the boat. And he was actually able to identify, I think, more birds than Jesse. And he was a third of a quarter of my age and a third of Jesse's age, I think. So he
I
was
love it.
great. It was great. Yeah, it was great. Just people you meet and yeah, it was a great experience. And the other thing I wish, and I do have it on. So I'll try to make reels out of it for Instagram with the volume of the bird calls and how noisy they are. Like the shearwaters are really noisy, but then the albatross comes in, it's like it was just yeah. So do they communicate vocalize a lot besides? I mean, I know during mating rituals they're
Right.
very loud.
Yeah, of
Yeah.
course. Oh, we'll talk about
Yeah.
that. Hold on to your hats for that. But well, in general, the snowy albatross, when it comes to social behavior, you nailed it. So they're pretty much only social when they are in their breeding colonies, and then it gets real loud and rambunctious and courtship, and we'll talk all about that. But at sea, the snowy albatross will typically forage alone or in small groups, unless it's gathering in like one of these kind of feeding frenzies out at sea behind a fishing vessel. And then they're just like, let's go. And yeah, they're a little bit more interactive and trying to get their share of the food. So I bet that's really fun to watch. But Out at sea, if it's just them interacting with their food source, they're actually pretty quiet in general. Around courtship, pair bonding, nesting, and then territory displays and disputes, they have a lot of noises. And it sounds like you heard a couple of them. The snowy albatross is known to groan,
Mhm.
to croak, to rattle, to snap or puck. They do a lot of bill clapping, also known as yammering. That's a fun word. Great Scrabble word. Or yapping. They'll uh, during and after breeding, long-term partners will do what's known as a yapping duet. So it's this rhythmic wah, 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 wah style exchange between long-term partners. And it's usually given at close range to each other to help reinforce their pair bond. And they'll also do a very high-pitched trumpeting. It's often called a sky call, and it's just this long, drawn out trumpet like whine. And they'll do it with their bill pointed straight up and their wings partly spread. And once again, they often use this in courtship dances, which we'll talk about. So they definitely have a
They're
lot to
noisy.
say, and a lot of different ways to say it. So I love that about them, right? They're super. Yeah, they know what they want to say and they know how to get it across. So you got to love that.
Well, it was something to hear, and I would love to watch the mating. So that kind of leads me into repro
Yeah.
because I've seen that with David Attenborough
Hmm.
here in New Zealand with the Royal Albatrosses, or in some of the subantarctic islands where they go down and film this
Yes.
behavior. It's incredible.
Yeah, we'll definitely
But
to
this
put
is
some.
so important. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
so
we'll definitely
important for
put
them.
some
Yeah.
links of courtship behavior on YouTube, or you can just Google it yourself. There's some, like Chris was saying, there's some great footage that has been taken throughout the years, and it's brilliant. But in general, the snowy or wandering albatross mates for life and breeds every other year. And spoiler alert, they only lay one egg. So that's one of the reasons for the slow recovery when they are being conserved. And so breeding time for the snowy albatross will be actually around now.
Yeah.
It'll
Yeah.
be the southern hemisphere spring and summer months. And during this time, the snowy albatrosses will form these loose colonies on these isolated islands in the Southern Ocean. So keep in mind, male and female have been out to sea all winter. So we didn't even really talk about that. Like one of the main times that they're out flying and hunting is the coldest times of the year. So they've been out there doing that. Something triggers them to then come to the island where they were born. It's obviously probably something to do with the smell, of course, pheromones, all those hormones, those types of things. But the male will actually arrive first out foraging out at sea, and he'll arrive to the same breeding site every year within days of each other. So once again, they've had GPS and tracking to figure this out, and
Mm.
every time the male knows when to go back, and they all go back around that time, and they get there before the female. And the male snowy albatross will basically locate and reuse old nests and or sometimes create a new one depending on how the nest fared over the winter season. Now, the female snowy albatrosses will then arrive later to the island within a few weeks. So that just depends. Chris already mentioned it, I think, at the top of the show, but snowy albatrosses breed on South Georgia Island, Crozet Islands, Kerguelen Islands, Prince Edward Islands, Macquarie Islands, and they can also be seen, as Chris mentioned, off the coast of New Zealand, year round. And I'm going to say this wrong, Kaikoura.
No, that's pretty good. Kaikoura. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's where Jesse did
Awesome.
his bird boats. Or
There
when
you go.
Jesse moved to New Zealand, he was on dolphin boats and bird boats as a work visa, and then he ended up staying, working at the zoo. And yeah,
Perfect.
yeah, yeah.
So So, yeah, and then once male and female are there, remember they are monogamous. So they have this strategy where they'll form pair bonds for life. So if they've already been a bonded male and female, they'll find each other. If they're new to the whole breeding thing, then they will select a partner. And of course, if they've never had a partner, they definitely, wouldn't have had a nest. And so hopefully the male got his act together and prepared something before he tried to breed with the female. When they are courting one another, and they do this whether they are new to the dating scene or lifelong partners. So all of you people out there that have lifelong partners, and John, remember that it is still good to court them with song and dance and honking.
Okay.
You too,
I don't do
Chris.
the.
I'm trying to help you out, Pip. So
I do courting, but I don't dance very well, and she doesn't want to hear me sing. But I do. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
well, don't knock until you try it, because oh boy, these snowy albatrosses, they give a show.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, we'll link it on our show notes, or maybe we'll put some videos up on social media, or you can just Google it and enjoy it. You're welcome. But when courting one another, the snowy albatross will spread their wings, wave their heads. They'll do these courtship dances. They'll have vocal duet calls. It's beautiful. They will croak, they'll scream, they'll whistle, they'll grunt. They will do the mechanical bill clapping or the yammering. And they'll do a lot of this while posturing and sky pointing. So that's when they'll like point their beak to the sky and do the sky calls. So it is just filled with wing stretching, head bobbing, mutual bill touching. Okay, that's a fun one. And they create this highly choreographed audio visual performance that can last anywhere from a few seconds to up to 15 minutes. So I think for John and I, it would be at least 15 minutes of dancing and twirling and bill clapping. So it's just super fun to watch. And it's so cool. So if you haven't seen it, please do yourself a favor and YouTube that, because it's incredible. And of course, once male and female reunite and get that old flame going, they will breed. And after breeding, the pair will nest on slopes or valleys, usually in covered grasses or shrubs. And the nests that the males have either reused or created are often in depressions that are lined with grass and soils and twigs. So yeah, they're just this big bowl of vegetation and soil and peat. The snowy albatross nest is typically 1 meter wide at the base and 1/2 meter wide at the apex. So it's a pretty good sized nest. And then the female lays 1 egg, just one. It's white with a few spots on it, and it's about 10 centimeters or 3.9 inches long. She will typically lay this egg somewhere between early December and early January. So right about now.
Yep. As we record. Yep.
Yeah, right as we record. And this is fascinating to me, Chris. The incubation of the egg is the longest incubation of any bird, 11 weeks.
Wow.
About 11 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
And both parents are involved. Chris and I have an inside joke on the podcast about who's a good dad and moms are almost always great.
Almost always, yes. Yeah. Cassowary,
no. Not cassowary, no. But the dads can be iffy, but no, not the snowy albatross. This dad is amazing. And so during the early stages of development, both the parents will take turns sitting on the nest while the other has to go out in the ocean and search for food and hopefully get some, and then bring it back, feed itself, but then also bring back food to regurgitate to feed to the chick. And they'll take turns doing that. And sometimes the adults will be out for a few days at a time before they come back. And then as the chick ages, it might be a couple weeks that they're taking turns going out to sea and coming back. So once the chick becomes a little bit bigger, they'll both go out and search for food for pretty decent intervals and then come back. So the chicks are left alone a lot, which does make them vulnerable. Once again, if we have any of these invasive species on these islands and stuff like that, right? So Um, but this goes on. The weaning period is extensive. Uh, they will stay with mom and dad and won't be weaned for about 12 to 16 weeks. So that's a pretty good amount of time of
Yeah.
just, being fed by mom and dad and cared
It's a
for.
big investment for them.
It's
Huge.
it's
It's
really
huge.
huge.
Yeah.
It's and the fact, I mean, that they only lay one egg and then they
Mm-hmm.
only do it every other year.
Yep.
Um, because I mean, I don't know, I'm just hypothesizing. They probably do this every other year because it is such a big investment. From a nutritional point of view, all of that it probably really depletes their resources, and especially from the female side of things, she needs that extra time to recover. That's, once again, that's just a hypothesis. I don't know that, but it is interesting to me that they don't lay an egg every year. And that also definitely hinders their recovery, right? And so there's statistics out there that suggest that adolescents will return to the colony where they were born within 6 years. Okay. Meanwhile, they're just out in the ocean. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. But typically with snowy albatrosses, they don't start actively breeding and doing the courtship dance and finding a partner and all of that until they're 11 to 15 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that is a huge investment. And then when we talk about them being picked off by, consuming too much plastic or these long lines, it's just, it's literally tragic.
Yeah. 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 Well, and
And, oh,
that's why the long lines are in the news. I mean, that's why people
definitely.
get upset, and
Yeah.
it's the government of New Zealand is tracking it
Yeah. Yeah.
because they care.
Yeah. And
There's governments on earth that don't care. At
yeah.
least New Zealand cares, is saying, okay, how do we fix this?
Yeah. I mean,
So, yeah.
and that's the thing is only about 31, only about 35.1% of fledglings actually survive to then. So that so now we're talking about, like, if we do the quick math, okay, you're a female snowy albatross, you lay an egg every other year, so every 6 years, one of your fledglings survives,
Yeah.
right?
And yeah, and that's, I don't know if that's taking into consideration invasive species. So when we talk about Auckland Island, that they're going to try to eradicate these feral cats,
Yeah,
which albatross fledgling, it's easy. That's easy
yeah,
prey for a wildcat. We just did the African wildcat, and we talked about, we wanted to celebrate cats and really not go into how feral cats are so destructive. But these islands, where mice and rats and feral pigs, and then I mean, that's easy pickings for them. And so there's thousands of albatross on there nesting every other year. They come through, pick them off. How many actually survive? No wonder why they're heading towards extinction, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah, it's a lot. There's a lot there that's against them right now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's just, and it's just incredible to me, the albatross parents of these chicks. I mean, they're putting so much time and energy into this one chick. And I mean, some data suggests, depending on where they nest, like in the harsher Southern Ocean regions, the chick will remain on the nest mound for up to 8 months
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and be brought food and stuff like that. So it's a crazy investment of this food provisioning that's just, it's really, really impressive. So yeah. It yeah, I am definitely in love with the snowy albatross and all
Yeah.
these unique facts. They're just really incredible birds, and I'm so happy a few weeks ago you sent me those pictures and you were all
Yeah.
all geared up
Well, I
to
think
cover them.
when you do come, and everybody else, I'm inviting you to come to New Zealand, please.
Uh-huh.
You go to Kaikoura.
Uh-huh.
Jesse, I have yet to go, and I'm planning to go hopefully next year. It is on the South Island, and you can go, and that's where sperm whales are, tons of humpbacks, tons of dolphins, and albatross. You can get on a bigger boat, a faster boat, not a little rinky-dink one like I was on, to go see albatross. And I highly suggest, and I'm going to bring up an organization here, where if you came like right now in December, you can see them nesting, because one of the few places on the planet where they nest on a mainland where you can see them. But yeah, that's a huge investment, Angie. It's, and I remember early days, Pip and I dating, and she was talking about the David Attenborough, might have been Planet Earth 3, where the albatross chick is blown off the nest mound and must get back on because mom and dad will only recognize the bird that's sitting on the mound.
Yeah.
Which, they're smart, but they're not that smart.
Sure,
So the bird's right next to the mound. They won't feed that, but they're
Right.
looking for the bird that was on the mound.
Right.
And you watch this bird struggle to get on there. And I remember Pip telling me she was in tears in that sequence. But yeah,
Did it make it?
I think it did. I
Okay,
hope it did.
let's
I'm
hope.
going to go back and
Let's
watch it. I think it did climb back up. Yeah, but then
Yeah.
they show another one that didn't, like, the reality. Just because the winds were picking up. The winds are getting stronger. It is so hot here. It is like summer, but we're in spring. Climate change is real. We've had the warmest November ever since I've lived here, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah. So anyways, organizations, me. Now, with all that being said, don't lose hope. There is a lot of hope. And again, if you come to New Zealand, I cannot recommend the Royal Albatross Center more than anything on the Otago Peninsula near Dunedin. I went there a couple years ago. That's where I saw my first albatross just soaring on the waves. I think it was a Bullers. They have tours. They're protecting the Royal Albatross nesting areas, and they do lead wildlife tours there. So if you came in December and January, you can see them nesting there. The coastline is some of the most beautiful you've ever seen on Earth. And you can see albatross off the coast there. They do a lot of education and a lot of conservation here in New Zealand. So that's the Royal Albatross Center. That's albatross.org.nz or NZ. But I really wanted to highlight the agreement on the conservation of albatross and petrels. Yes, 13 parties, which I'll read here in a second. They've come together to conserve albatrosses and the petrels by coordinating international activity. So, talking about longline fishing, we recognize it's an issue. So, what are we going to do about it? And we're seeking solutions. That is one thing. Protecting these islands, like New Zealand is going out to eradicate these pests. That's going on like in South Georgia and other critical islands. But the countries that are part of it is Argentina, Australia, Brazil, Chile, Ecuador, France, New Zealand, Norway, Peru, South Africa, Spain, the UK, and Uruguay. So those are the ones. But and a lot of them are not only just in the Southern Oceans, but Norway does do a lot of fishing down here. We talked about in the krill episode. It's not just krill. They are fishing for other things. So they operate down here, France. So it's good to see these countries saying, hey, we want to help these birds, and we're going to voluntarily sign this and work hard to preserve these birds. So even though we know overall albatross are in trouble, the countries around the world are recognizing that. I'm seeing it in my own home country now. And there are organizations out there fighting for these animals, like day in, day out. It's not great, but I think it's getting much better than, say, it was 20, 30 years ago, where...
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, so now there's actually the ACAP announced the World Albatross Day on the 19th of June in 2026. So the theme is habitat restoration. So we'll be talking about it on social media, and a good reminder for all the albatrosses that are out at sea that winter.
Yes.
It will be winter in the southern oceans, but summer here. So things like that, just making awareness and helping educate others about the importance of conserving the mighty, mighty, epic
Yes.
snowy albatross.
Yeah. Yeah. And hey, if you're still listening, if you can do me a favor, click 5 stars if you're on Spotify or iTunes. We haven't asked that in forever, but we are getting comments. So shoot us a comment if you like this episode. Check us out on YouTube. Subscribe to our channel. It's early days there, but we are growing that. From the bottom of my heart and Angie's heart, thank you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for caring so much about these animals.
Yes.
Yeah, great job, Angie. I know we've got a slate of animals to come. I'm excited to start my research. But yeah, this one was just close
So
to the
fun.
heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And thank you, Jesse, for making me
For
go
being
with
the
you.
inspiration. The trooper, a real trooper for sure.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Thank you for listening and caring and sharing.
Take care.